Camera, I think we're live.
Okay, yeah. I think we should carry on. Okay. Good evening, our esteemed listeners and viewers. Welcome to our first live discussion of our book series. My name is Kulsum Kabir Mato, and with me is
Shalom Sojadendi. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome, Shalom. Today we're going to talk about the book titled Who Moved My Cheese by Johnson Spencer. So Who Moved My Cheese, the title alone is a metaphor. It's not just like the literal edible cheese that we're all used to. So the cheese is a metaphor, and then who moved it? We have no idea who moved the cheese. So in this book, and when you follow us through our discussion, you'll get to understand who really moved the cheese. Is it you, the public, or who else? We don't know yet. And then the cheese, you'll be thinking, okay, since it's not the edible cheese we're used to, then what cheese are we going to talk about? So yeah, Shalom, let's dive into the business once and for all so that we'll let our listeners and viewers know what exactly this cheese is. So from your own point of view, I know you've read the book and you had discussion with people, right?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So please, what do you think this cheese is? And from your own perspective and understanding, what is this cheese?
Okay, thank you for that question. From the book, we see that cheese is a metaphor, and generally, a metaphor is regarded as something that represents something else. So we see here that cheese represents literally anything to anyone. Anything that you feel is your goal, anything you're driving towards is your cheese. For instance, it could be a good job, becoming a medical doctor. It could be going to school, having a healthy relationship, or having money. So that could be your cheese. From the book, we see how the little mice, to them, cheese was cheese, literally. They just needed something they could feed on and nourish themselves with. But to the two little people, cheese was what would give them satisfaction and contentment and fulfillment. So from the book, we see that cheese is a metaphor, and it represents literally anything you hold dear to you, anything you place value on. Yes, that's what I understand by cheese.
Okay, but what is your own cheese if I were to ask you now?
Okay, I think at the moment my cheese would be to become a medical doctor. I'm currently in medical school. So yes, my cheese is to become a medical doctor. Yes.
Okay, that's nice. Okay, regarding the book, when we go back to the book, I saw they went like seated and finding the keys. They were in a maze. So I don't know the maze. What does the maze really represent?
Okay, the maze is generally where you look for your cheese. Where you look for your cheese. Let me give an instance of myself. I said I was a medical doctor. So medical school is my maze. Okay. In this little people, in the story, the parable we see how maze is literally in these people. They say life is a journey. Yes. So the path you take to this journey is like your maze in code now. But then you have to be conscious that like every maze, there are dead ends. So the journey might not always, maze may not always favor you in quotes. So there might be dead ends in the maze. So that's what I understand by maze. Basically where you look for what you want, your cheese. Yes.
So literally, your cheese is what you want and the maze is the path you follow. While trying to achieve what you want. Okay. This is like a personal something to me. The book, when I was going through the book, I find it really personal. It's more like a life-changing something. It's about growth, about evolution, about leaving your comfort zone and the rest. So what changes have you already experienced in your life? Like, how did you react to the changes when you experienced it? Because definitely it's not just about being a medical doctor. There's always a process before you become what you want to be, right? So what are those changes you encountered and how did you react to the change? And were you really threatened or angry or were you frightened, disoriented or excited? Different types of feelings when you're trying to pursue what you really want to achieve. So how did you go about the change you were experiencing? And after reading this book, Who Moved My Cheese, do you feel you dealt well with your change? Like, how did you deal with your change while experiencing the change?
Okay. Okay, that was a long question. So first off, I should tell you what changes I've experienced, and in
Okay.
comparison with the book, tell you if I handled it well.
Yes.
If I get it
Right.
right. Okay.
Right.
Let me give a scenario. When I was to
Okay.
enter the university, I was a big introvert. So knowing that the university had a lot of people was frightening. It was a change I had to undergo by force,
Yeah.
especially if I wanted to get
So yeah.
yeah. And my parents insisted I was going to stay in the school hostel. And
Okay.
being an only daughter, I've had my space to myself. So the thought of having to share a room with people and generally living space with other people that were not my family members was scary. So I tried
Of
to
course.
convince my parents to let me attend lectures from home. I was scared of the fact that I would need to make new friends, new circles of people, how the whole journey was going to be. So that was one major change I knew I had to experience. And I don't think I handled the change well after reading the book because
Okay.
I did not handle it well. I was panicking. I was frightened. I was not happy. If there was a way I could undo it, I would have undone it. But
Of
after
course.
reading this book, I see that um, change is inevitable, like I came to
Right.
realize later. But assuming I had read the book earlier, I would have definitely handled the change differently. I would have accepted in time and learned how to learn. I would have learned how to do everything I did later on earlier.
Right. Right.
Yes. Did I answer your question?
So right, you did. So, literally, it's one of the major changes that is you being in the university and trying to adapt in the environment, new environment, new roommates, and then,
Yeah.
of course, the lecture struggle, and also it's a little bit scary and all. So that's nice. So, um, but has the author's book, The Who Moved My Tea, helped you see how change can be beneficial in like your personal life, in general, like in your professional, personal, and general life? Do you think this book helped you to see how change is really beneficial? Or do you think, like many people prefer being in their comfort zone, and some say life starts or rather begins at the when you leave your comfort zone. So you leaving your comfort zone is like a new thing completely to you. So how do you think this book will be beneficial to people that are, always trying to talk in the moment, want to be on their own, want to be where they are, Like in the book, we have four characters. One was had to sit back because he's already used to that environment, while the others were trying to experience, that excitement, trying to leave your own comfort zone so that you'll be able to. So, how do you think this would really help in general life, personal and the change?
Okay. Let me start with a line from the book. It said, if you do not adapt to change, you will cease to exist. And that is very true. This is one book I reading over and over again because I believe everyone themselves in the book. Okay, so Dr. Spencer in his book made it very clear that change will always occur, whether we like it or not. And I believe every one of us can relate to that. Change will always occur. Now, I think the problem starts when we feel change is going to be negative. And in the book, he made us realize that change would either be negative or positive at all times, but change is inevitable. Now, what he made us understand clearly from the book is that whether positive or negative, there's always a lesson to learn from change. And that lesson you will learn will be beneficial in your next line of action in life or in to change generally. And you mentioned something about comfort zone. It's very true. You cannot advance when you're in your comfort zone. We see how the two little people, Hem and Haw, the characters in the book, where they were so bent on being in their comfort zone that it began to affect them greatly. Very greatly. Like, you could see that they started having nightmares, they started having dreams. One thing about being stagnant is that it's not so beneficial because in the world we live in, the world is very dynamic. The world is very dynamic. Everything changes. So you have to just come to the understanding that you need to change. You just have to understand that you need to change. Change is inevitable. So the author, looking at it through the lens of the author, he's letting us know that change will always come and it can be positive or negative, but there's
Right.
always a lesson from it. Yes.
Right. So Okay, I know this book is an interesting book. And looking back, or rather, when you're reading it, the adrenaline, that kind of rush that you want to share it with other people, the excitement
Yeah.
and all. So I'm definitely sure you shared the book or with other people, maybe your colleagues, your family members. And when the other person or the other party read it, you definitely have something to discuss about. And then that
Yeah.
person might possibly tell you about their own life experience and how they adapt to change. So what did you learn from other people's stories? And then are there any situations from their own stories similar to yours?
Okay. Okay. I'm going to retrace what I already posted on my LinkedIn and few social media platforms. I said following the crowd isn't always wrong. Okay. I follow a lot of people who read on social media, and as always, there's a wave when a particular book is trending or being talked about. And there was a time where I saw this "Who Moved Your Cheese" here and there, and I was curious. But because I had read a book that had been recommended, and I didn't seem to get much value from it, I thought it was another overhyped book, quote unquote. And so I wasn't willing to read the book. Fast forward to the Effective Readers Program Immersion Year cohort, the book for the month was this book in question. And when I came to see that the book was only 39 pages long, I waved off the book. I was like, it's something I can read in less than an hour. And even in the book, we see that it said that it's something that we can read in less than an hour. So I pushed, let's say I procrastinated reading the book. And when I eventually did, I realized that the book had so much value. Okay, Amira is off. Okay. I realized that the book has so much value, and I couldn't wait to share it with everybody because, like I keep saying, I believe everyone can find themselves in the book. It's something that I believe each and every one of us can relate to because everyone goes through changes in their lives. So I went ahead to share it. I shared it on my social media platforms. A lot of people read the book. I advised them to, go through it. Considering the whole book is 39 pages long. I need to something that everyone could read in such a short time and gain value from. So yes, I got feedback. A lot of people told me that they realized they were more like the Hem character, and Hem is the character. And in case you have not read the book, Hem is the character that does not want to accept change. He's bent on being where he is. He doesn't want to leave his comfort zone. Okay. Okay. So yeah, Hem was bent on not leaving his comfort zone. So people shared their experiences. A lot of people said that they realized they were more like him, like I said, and they were always waiting for people to always do things for them, or they were not willing to adapt to the changes. Okay, I'll come back.
Thank
So I'm
you.
just saying that I'm just starting the part where a lot of people said they could relate to the Hem character more, who was not ready to adapt to change. And they always said that they realized that if they had moved forward, or if they had accepted the change they refused to in time, their lives would have been much better. Yes. So in the end, I think you asked, did any relate to me? I think yes, one did. Somebody mentioned the fact that in the Nigerian system, the youth are always waiting for the government to do things for them. Like Hem felt he was entitled, and that's what many Nigerian youths feel like. They feel
That
like they're
sense of
entitled.
entitlement, like we deserve that without working for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And as much as it's the role of the government to provide some basic amenities, there are still things we need to do as
Right.
young people. So that was one scenario I could
Right.
relate to a lot. Yes.
So what situations are similar to yours in all those
Um,
people that you had discussion with?
well, everybody's story was kind of unique. So I don't think there's anyone that was directly similar where I could relate to every one of them. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So this book is about parables, metaphors, and it depends on, like, he just gave us the title, but it depends on what you want to use it for. It depends on, as we said earlier, the cheese can be job, can be relationship, can be love, can be work, can be anything, depending on what you really want to. So do you wish the author has, like, maybe put the title as maybe or maybe the book rather, as a step-by-step approach on how to approach life? Or you love the way he puts it in parables so that everyone can actually put what he feels like in the, like fill in the blanks. You fill the blanks yourself, or rather, you prefer him teaching us maybe, okay, there's the first step, the second step, or which one do you prefer?
I feel the book is perfect as it is. It's perfect. The parable is perfect. I feel like if you had
Right.
given us concrete steps on how to adapt to change, it would have limited the number of readers that could read this
Right.
book. Because he's a
Yeah.
doctor, yes. I feel like if I thought he would have written about how to adapt to change, maybe he would have written something in line with medicine or something in that nature.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So it's beautiful that he left it as a parable.
And the fact
Um,
that the book is like, okay, who moved my keys? People are curious creation. So everyone will
yeah,
be like, my keys, just like I at first I was like, my keys, I don't even eat keys. Why would I even try? That kind of a thing. Everyone will be
exactly.
thinking, okay, like, and the cover, like the book cover, the cheese on it. So
Yeah,
you'll be thinking,
literally.
okay, it's just the normal cheese, unless you read like maybe the first page or behind the book, that kind of a thing, maybe what people are actually saying about the book. That's when you realize that, okay, it's not actually the edible cheese that we're all used from. So you
Yeah.
prefer it the way it is rather than the step by step.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I
So
okay,
my next,
if I may add,
okay, sure.
okay, so after reading the book, it's a parable. I believe everyone can decode it themselves. If you feel like you need a step-by-step method, this generation is so blessed. We have books on literally almost anything. So I believe if you can search, you will definitely find a book that will address a how to approach on how to do something. For instance, there's this focus cycle I'm a part of by Dr. Amali Joshua, and we're talking about procrastination. And one book he recommended that I also recommend to everyone is Eat That Frog. So there are books like that that help you with self-development, adapting to change, and things of that nature. Yes.
The fact that there are more like books of step-by-step approach to this, step-by-step approach to this. So people would prefer just taking the step-by-step shortcut. But this book is like a short book with small pages, like the pages are like literally 45, 43, it's short.
39 pages. Yeah.
Exactly. So everything in the book complements what's supposed to be. And in this, like the first page you read, you start thinking it's like applicable to everyone. Whoever
Everybody.
feels like trying to adapt to anything, whenever you read this book, you're also like, this is something that really applies. So yes, in the parable, the author says the four characters represent the four parts of ourselves, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So from the simple to complex, like from simple part to the complex part of ourselves. So what does he mean? Which characters represent the part of ourselves, like the parts of ourselves that he meant? And then is there one character you relate to more? Is it the hem, the haw, the scurry? Which character do you
Yeah.
relate to more in the book? And then which part of ourselves are these characters related to?
Okay. Let me mention the characters again. In the book, we have four characters. We have two little mice and two little people. We have Sniff, Scurry, Hem, and Haw. Another beautiful thing I like in this book is that all the characters do as their names imply. Sniff sniffs out change in time. Scurry hurries to make these changes. Hem and haw is actually a verb. It means to hem and haw means to complain and to murmur. And you see how hem and haw did that. So
Right?
we all have this in us. We all have these different phases in us. Let me give an instance. Let's say you have a room to yourself. You can come
Mm-hmm.
into there and be like, okay, I don't longer want this book here. Let me move the book from here to here. And you just move it. You don't think too much about it. I
Right.
can say that you are sorry. You just made the change without overthinking it because
Yeah, you
in
just make it at that instant.
exactly the mice had simple brains. They were not overthinking things, unlike the little people who
Right,
were coming up with systems and new structures. Let's say in
right.
school, for instance, maybe let's say the
Mm,
lecturer fixed a test. Students know these things. You can assume that, okay, this lecturer is going to cancel this test. You could have sniffed the change. So when it comes and lecturer either cancels it or sets up another test, the change is not surging to you. You're able to sniff it out, like
mm-hmm,
sniff in the book. Yes.
mm-hmm.
When it comes to characters like Hem and Haw, that's where the problem is. When we begin to use our complex brains to overanalyze things. So I'm thinking of an example. Um, let's say you were asked to leave your father's house. Now that kind of change,
Okay.
you're going to, let's say they told you there's a job for you. As much as maybe you were looking for a job, let's assume you're an undergraduate, or let's assume you have finished school now, and as much as you would want to move, you are probably going to think about it, how you're going to live. You might not be willing to move out of where you're comfortable in, things like that. So these
Leaving
different
your
characters
comfort
in different.
zone, you start thinking
Exactly.
of how to eat, okay, I'll have to be cooking, and at home I'm used to, okay, they will cook, or I'll just help a little, that kind of a thing.
Exactly.
Mm,
Exactly. So there are
it's
different times
time
we
to
make change,
adapt.
overthinking it,
But
and then there are times.
let me add this. One of those things that are like maybe making us not to really want to change is the negative thoughts. We do not
Yeah.
think of the positive, like, okay, let's start
Yeah.
thinking, okay, yeah, now the moment I go out, I'll now be stranded, my money will finish, I'll have to
Exactly.
buy food, I'll have to do
Yeah.
this. But at home, I'm seated at home, the food will come, everything comes in handy. But the moment I step up, I will never think of, okay, I'm going to be more stronger. I'll be able to have experience. I'll meet new people. I'll learn from their
Connection.
lives. Yeah, I will
Yeah.
connect with other people. I'll have my, extension of people, all the, you never think of that. The first thing that comes to mind is the negative impact that going out of your father's house is going to cause you. So this is one of those things that usually stops you from making any change. Change is hard, to be honest. So yeah, carry on. Sorry, I
Yes,
had to add that.
um,
Mm,
so yes, like I was saying, there are times we make changes without overthinking them, and then there are times we overthink these things, and we can mess up in the process, or we might not even
right.
want to change, like him. You asked which
Mm-hmm.
character I relate more to. I relate more to Hall. Yes, I like to think of Hall as the book said he laughed at himself, so I think he's Hall, maybe he laughed at himself that way.
Oh,
Uh, yeah.
right.
So how did not want to accept the change in time. He thought about it, he thought about the consequences. It took him a while. I feel like it was probably part of the hunger that he felt that made him now want to come back to the maze. And I think that's what
Right.
I don't want
He was
to do.
so hungry,
I
like he was there, everyone left him behind. It's just like, how the world is moving digital now. Everywhere, okay, we all want to be manual, but
yeah,
like things are happening. The world is fast moving and we're left behind. So you just have to go with that because, in the long run, you won't even have anything again at that instant. So you have to just move with things.
yeah,
Yeah, so you relate to her. It's
yeah.
after,
Maybe I've suffered a little bit. I now adapt to the change, but now I'm working on it after reading the
But
book.
to be
That's
honest, I can understand what you went through because even I, my first year in uni, that changed. You have to go down for classes, 6 a.m. lectures, and I was staying in the, off here at first, living by yourself. Okay, some of my sisters
yeah,
were there, but then your lectures, go down there, come back there. Before you even finish registration, it's another thing. Nigerian university, you have to be going up and down. So the stress, you will just be, oh my God, and the hunger when you come back. You have to start
exactly.
doing something. So that alone is something that you can just it's not easy. And then
Oh,
okay, after first semester, you're thinking of going back to second semester. You'll now remember all the negative things. You won't remember the good things that happened though. It's only the negative things. Then you'll just start crying. You don't want to leave the house and also yeah. So my last question here is why is it so hard? Why do you think it's very hard for people to adapt to change, like to accept change? Change is hard. Change is constant at the same time. But why do you think people find it very hard to adapt to that change?
okay. Let me repeat something you said. Because human
Right.
beings are complex people, we we are so smart. We are able to predict the outcome of things, and most times we are not optimistic. So we're always thinking of the negative things, like you said. We're always
Right.
thinking of how everything can go wrong. There's 1,000 ways things can go wrong. We are never optimistic
Right.
about, okay, could this actually benefit me? No, we are just
Mm.
conclude that it could be negative. And I think another
Mm.
thing is fear. People are afraid of tomorrow. They're afraid of things they don't know. They don't know what the future holds. So there's fear of the future. There's
The
fear of.
future is uncertain. So
Exactly. So most people are afraid. That I think it will be those two things. We overthink things. We always think of the negative outcomes first, and then we're afraid. So by the time you combine those two, when you see change, it's like, what's this coming at me? I don't really want this in my life. So
mm,
yes,
right.
that's
But you know that at times this change it has to be first on us. Like it's literally been forced on us before we accept it. Like it's the last thing, or it's like we don't even have any option. So that's just the last option we have. So we must accept it, not because we want it, but because it's a must for us to accept it. That's mostly why.
I think that's why the author, one thing he kept emphasizing on was change will come, but learn to adapt to it in time. In time, learn the
Right.
lessons you learn in time. He kept mentioning
Right.
like I think one thing I saw was in time, change will come. So the quicker you'll adapt to this change, work with it, try to fit yourself, make sure you've gotten your foot in, the better it will be for you. I think that's one beautiful thing about it as well. Yeah.
So, in general, we've read this. It's all about growth, about evolution, about experience, about adaptability, resilience. It's all about all this. So, what advice would you give to the audience, our audience right now? What advice do you think is very important for them? Not only about the change, about the resilience, about the adaptability. What advice can you give to our audience?
Okay. First advice, go and read the book if you haven't read it.
Yeah.
Yes. The second advice I would say is be open to change. Be open to change. There was one thing that struck me in the book, and it has helped my decisions, I think, since the time I read it. It was a line Paul made. He said, "What would you do if you were not afraid?" So I would like you to think about something, maybe something you're passionate about. Maybe you're contemplating if it will work or not. Think about it. What is stopping you from doing that thing? If it's not something tangible, like for instance, what will people say? Will it work out? Start. Go ahead and do it. Just do things from a place where you would not regret it later. So that's one last advice I think I have for anybody listening.
Wow. So what advice would you have for me that I read the book?
Since you've already read the book, I'll say implement the knowledge and every lesson you have learned from it. Be sure to keep yourself whenever you see change, remember the characters and remember how change is beneficial and the lessons you can learn from it, and embrace the change. Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much, Salom, for sharing your experience, your knowledge, your everything related to the book. It's really educative and interesting and entertaining at the same time. And I would also advise each and everyone listening to us to really go and check that book. It's very short. The book has at least 40 something pages. So it's not something that you can say, okay, I'll finish tomorrow. At one sitting, you can actually finish the book. It's very interesting, very entertaining, and very educative. And change is constant in life. So this is our first book series discussion, and constantly we'll continue every month. We'll be having different discussions, be it on movies that are educative or books that are educative. So please try and make sure that you link and connect with us so that you'll be able to be educated all together. Thank you for watching. And Salom, thank you very much for being here. Have a nice day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you.